Now we are going to go, and there you go, right on cue, and the Premier will have to follow that one up. Let's go and speak to the PC member of the House of Assembly serving the folks of Humber East, and of course the Premier of the province, Mr. Tom Marshall. Good morning, Premier Marshall. You're on the air.
Paddy, how are you?
I'm fine this morning. How are you, sir?
Very well, thanks. It's been a while since I called in. This is the first time I've called into your show since I became Premier, and but I'm delighted to be able to do so and to have a chance to talk and address concerns that have been raised, such as the previous gentleman. I think if he looks at in terms of what we've done for seniors, in terms of that low-income senior benefit, this is the fourth time that we've raised this. Plus, it's indexed. So, seniors, when we do a budget, all my budget, seniors and initiatives to help seniors has played a major role, and it'll continue to do so.
But I guess the seniors, and the overwhelming perspective is that seniors are so far left behind at this point that some of those increases that they saw this time around really are paltry sums. And you heard from Leo, and I guess he represents, I think, would be the majority of senior voices.
The senior benefit, it's over $1,000 now, right? It was $971, but it's come since we've been in office. It's come from so far. And that's the one I hear about the most. People are appreciative of that. There's also the low-income tax reduction. This is a fourth time in 4 budgets that we've raised the threshold. So there's, people with low incomes will not pay any taxes at all, and that's always great. A lot of things for housing, a lot of things for people with disabilities. We listened to what people were telling us about spreading the wealth around, sharing in the prosperity. We had this wealth that we never saw in the past, and people want it shared, and that's what this budget was about. And when I got sworn in as Premier, that's what I talked about. I said, I'm not here for a long time, but I said, let the motto of the time we're here being a fair society, and taking this wealth that's been generated from the oil and the minerals and sharing it with the people of the province and spreading it around the whole province. And that's what we've tried to do.
Yeah, this year's budget was characterized by many as an election year budget. The spreading of the wealth also included the need to borrow $1 billion. Since 2009, certainly you were one of the people who spoke to this one, is that the overspending was starting to become a problem here in the province. And so here we are, still in the boom times of oil revenue and royalties, and we still had to borrow $1 billion. So how do you justify having to borrow $1 billion when we're spreading the wealth and we're enjoying these so-called boom times?
Well, first of all, let me say that we've run 6 surpluses in the last 10 years. That's unprecedented in our history. You can't have a surplus every year. There are going to be times when it's just not possible. But in this budget, with our spending, this budget is on track to get us back to a surplus next year and to remain in surplus the year after. So it's a budget that shared the wealth, but it's also a budget that's going to get us back to balance. And that'll probably be the election budget, not necessarily this one, a budget where we get back to balance after providing new programs and services and infrastructure that the people of the province are telling us that they want to see.
Inside that $1 billion to pay some of the debt coming due is a transfer of some $562 million to Nalcor. Will it require going to estimates to figure out what the rest of the $1 billion is for, or can you tell us this morning?
No, I'll tell you now. Patty, don't let me forget that question. But just let me tell you that it's my view, since becoming Premier of this province, that the more information we give the people of the province, the more government is proactive in giving out information, people will have a better understanding of what government is trying to do, and that means people can give government better advice, and that'll help government make better decisions, which will mean better programs and services. That's why we're bringing in the Open Government Initiative. We'll talk about more later. I'll get back to you. I'll get back to your question. The money that's going to Nalcor, I think it's 552 if you add them all up. There's 180 going for Muskrat Falls. There's 220 going into oil and gas, and then there's a contingency amount for 150 million, just in case. And then beyond that is other investments like INTRD investments that they're going to make, the Multi-Materials Stewardship Boards. These are government's investments. They're not considered expenses. They're considered investments we're making. They don't show up as an expense in our income statement. They show up as an asset on our balance sheet.
But of course,
does that answer it?
I guess it does. And people will go down that splitting of hair and say that is semantics with financial terms as to what represents debt and what can be considered an asset given the
not debt. An asset versus an expense, not debt.
Fair point.
But we can always, when it's an investment, you have something. We have the investment in Muskrat Falls. We have the investment. The other one is the liquor corporation. So we could sell those. We could sell those at any time, and that way the asset is turned into cash.
Well, I mean,
it's not an expense that's expended, and then that's done. You got to do it again next year.
Well, the Liquor Corp returns money to the province every year. It was some $300 million last year. Let's talk about a couple of the specific issues when you talk about open government.
Sure.
I think by and large, the Bill 29 review committee with Mr. Leto, Ms. Stoddard, and of course chaired by Justice Wells, is people beyond reproach and received very well. And people will wonder whether or not they'll have a full, thorough, exhaustive look. Recommendations will be followed by the government. But Muskrat Falls, it seems like a stark difference. It was all staff members put forward to review it. We don't know how and when we'll get to have a complete look at their report. What's the difference in the Bill 29 review and independent voices as opposed to Muskrat Falls? Wouldn't the comfort of the people be better served if these were truly independent outside the ranks of government to do that Muskrat Falls review?
Well, let's talk about the Bill 29 thing first. In our government, we worked pretty hard, and it wasn't entering our minds that we were in any way a secret government. We were working, doing the best we could, trying to do what's in the best interest of the people of the province. And obviously we would hope in doing that we'd have the confidence of the people and have the goodwill of the people. But with Bill 29, which we thought was a good piece of legislation, people had real concerns, and people were telling us about that. And when I spoke to people about it, and I said, well, tell me in particular, what part of the bill don't you like? And I found that the people really couldn't put their finger on something. It was more a feeling. They had a feeling that we were being a secretive government. So to address those concerns, I said, look, let's get a committee that's not connected with us in any way. A blue ribbon panel whose credentials are impeccable. We've got a former premier, retired Chief Justice of Newfoundland and Labrador, a former premier in a party other than our own. We have the former Privacy Commissioner for Canada, and we have a journalist, Doug Leto, who I'm told is a very well-respected journalist. I don't know him. And so this group have no connection with us. We gave them carte blanche to do and go and do whatever they want. We didn't put any restrictions on it because I said if we put any restrictions on that panel, people are going to say, oh, yeah, we're telling them what to do. So people said, did you put a timeline on it? I said, no. They can take the time they need to do whatever work they consider need and then provide us with recommendations. Then, of course, I got criticized for not putting a time limit on it. But that's what happened. So this panel is going to come to us with recommendations, and we're going to find out. And the people who have concern, they're going to find out too. And we're going to look very seriously at the recommendations they make, and we'll correct any concerns that people have.
Why not take the same approach with Muskrat Falls, which is so contentious, and it does indeed represent the biggest expenditure in the history of the province? Why not take a similar approach, even for just the comfort of the electorate?
Well, all right, let's deal with that. We've set up Newfoundland Labrador Energy Corporation, Nalcor, because as a government, we said we're not just sitting back and getting the royalties and getting the taxes. We want to take a piece of the action. We want the people of Newfoundland to own a share in the oil exploration or the oil production that's going on out there. And we want them, the people of the province who own the water and who own the water rights, we want them to get the benefit, not a private sector electricity company that's going to take the profits, put some back, but then take other profits and they may go somewhere else and buy something else. Everything earned from Muskrat Falls, everything earned from Nalcor's investment in oil and gas, in CF Elco, it's all coming back to the people of the province. That's the difference. This is the people's property. It's the people's asset. So we want to make sure that they get the benefit of everything. So we set up Nalcor as the vehicle to accomplish this, to invest in oil firms, to be at the table with the oil companies, to own a piece of the oil fields, so that we won't just get taxes from the oil companies and royalties, we're also going to get profits as well. And we're going to learn the business and know everything that's going on by being at the table. Same with electricity. We set Nalcor up. We went and got people like Ed Martin who've worked on projects like this, who've done these big projects. And just look at the oversight they have. They have their own board of directors that are appointed by the people's government. Remember, it's owned by the people of the province. That's key. It's not a foreign company. It's not a monopoly from somewhere else. This is a company that's owned by the people of Newfoundland and Labrador, and we want this company to prosper, because if they prosper, the people of the province will prosper.
I think we all understand the importance of the Crown Corp and the contribution they'll make in years to come. But just to the review committee piece, when you went to such extents, which I think people recognize and applaud on Bill 29 review, why not the same approach to Muskrat Falls? Even if it is the people's company, the benefits and revenue generated should be to the people's benefit.
Okay, well,
why not just go down a similar road?
All right, so we will appoint people to the board of directors, okay, of Nalcor. So we can appoint people to that board who have that experience, okay, who've worked on projects like this, who've been around the world and have worked on these large, complex projects. They have their own internal auditing committee. The auditing committee reports to the audit committee of the board. The audit committee reports to the board. There's one level of oversight. We have the Auditor General, who has in spite of what some people have been saying, the Auditor General can go into Nalcor, and I confirmed it with him, can go into Nalcor or any of Nalcor's subsidiaries any day, any time he likes, with our full support. There's oversight. Nalcor have an independent auditor. There's oversight. The independent auditor is going to come out with a special report every year. There's independent oversight. Nalcor has to have a public meeting every year. They have to answer to the people that attend that public meeting. It's broadcast on internet right over all through the province. There's oversight. We have to stand up in the House of Commons every day. There's oversight. And now the independent engineer. This is an independent engineer hired by the Government of Canada and the lenders to oversee the whole project, and we get a copy of that report, which will be made available to the people of the province.
Which, of course, was also a contentious issue when the report was received and Minister Daly said he hadn't taken the time to read it. So that just, even if it's perception versus reality, he gives people the feeling that the government is not taking that type of oversight as serious as people think they should, given the amount of money.
And people told us that, and we saw the oversight, and we could see there's lots of oversight there, but we realized people wanted more. So what we've done now is that we've now formed a committee of senior civil servants, chaired by the head of the civil service, and they will gather all this information. There's a plethora of information that's coming out all the time. I mean, you've seen Nalcor's monthly report. I mean, the last one was 48 pages. It's full of information. But this committee is going to gather all this information. That's what I mentioned before, and then they will be there to make sure that the government, the cabinet, is aware of what's going on, and they're going to make a public report as well to the public. So there's tons of oversight, and we've now added more professional oversight to the matter. But the important one, of course, is the independent engineer. That report will be available. And you mentioned some controversy. There were two phases to what the independent engineer had to do. The first one was for the financing. Government had made the decision to go ahead with Muskrat Falls because we thought it would provide electricity to the people of the province at the lowest cost to them, and it'll provide revenue to the province for the sale of the electricity that's going to be surplus. So we made the decision to go. Now we needed money, and we wanted the federal government to guarantee it, because if they guaranteed it, our costs of boring would be much lower. They hired the independent engineer to look at the project for them to make that decision. So we'd already made the decision. We were a go. But from now on, now we're into the construction. And now we want the independent engineer's report to oversee the construction and the procurement as the project moves forward. You talked about perception and reality.
Yeah.
Can I say something about that?
Perception trumps reality when it comes to politics, but yes, sir, exactly. You can say whatever you like.
Exactly. And what I've learned is that we do things based on the information we have. And we have all this information, we discuss it at Cabinet, we have a debate amongst ourselves, and we determine what we're going to do. And we do it, as I say, with the goal of doing what's in the best interest of the people of the province.
Can you guarantee that the report coming from the Muskrat Falls Oversight Committee will be released publicly in full?
We've instructed them to do so, and to do it monthly. I'm sorry, to do it quarterly.
Mm-hmm. And that would be included in Nalcor's quarterly report, or this will be an independent report?
This will be an independent report from the group that will be reviewing everything that's out there in Muscat Falls, whether it comes from Nalcor, whether it comes from their auditors, whether it comes from the independent engineer, whether it comes from their bankers, everything. They'll be taking it, and then they will be reporting to Cabinet, and they will also report to the public.
One last question, sir, before we go.
Let me say something.
Okay.
Please. The people in Newfoundland own this project. It's theirs. So shouldn't they be entitled to have all the information on what's happening, good or bad?
We should have it, absolutely.
Yes, yeah. I agree.
Last question, sir, before we go. Once again, perception reality. The concept that Mr. Coleman is the preordained, anointed one that will lead the government and, of course, the PC party. Who are you supporting, and how do you give people comfort that this is not already predetermined outcome, that it will be a fair race, the delegates will have an open mind going in? Because the reality here is, or the perception, pardon me, is that this is all window dressing, a farce of just anointing the man who has been chosen by backroomers and people inside the government, that being Mr. Coleman.
Well, first of all, as the party leader and as the premier, I have to remain impartial, and I will do so. Secondly, what I will say is that what you do in these circumstances, same as when you're picking a candidate to run in an election, you open it up. You put an ad in the paper and say, we need a leader, or we need a candidate. Nominations are open. Anybody who wants to run, come on and run. And only 3 people put their names through. There were a lot of people considering it, who decided for different reasons not to run, or decided that there was another candidate out there that they were prepared to support. And 3 names came forward, and now they're at it, and that's all I can do. But there's no fix in people in the party, whether they're in the House of Assembly, or whether they're former members of the executive, or they're volunteers in the party, members of Provincial District Association. They're going to vote for whoever they vote for. And they've got 3 choices, and I'll support the winner. I
appreciate your time this morning, Premier Marshall.
I just want to say one thing. You can
wrap up quickly, because I'm way over time, sir, but go right ahead.
We got a by-election going on in Virginia Waters. Virginia Waters. We got a great candidate there in Danny Breen. There's 3 good candidates running. Danny's a terrific guy. He'd be a great representative for that district. He'd be a great help to me and here in government and to the entire people of Newfoundland.
Appreciate your time, sir. Hopefully we can take some time to go down some other of the roads of issues of importance to the people. Well, I'm going out knocking on doors tonight and for the next few days. So people in Virginia Waters will be seeing me around. Appreciate your time. Thanks, Patty. Thank you, sir. Bye-bye. Tom Marshall is the Premier of the province, the PC member representing the folks of Humber.